The day that I started looking at the labels and I saw that there was sugar added in my tuna packet, I was mad. I was like, what the heck is happening to this world? We just have to get aware as consumers that we're being completely duped. And it really did come out of the low-fat, no-fat era of the 90s, because when you take fat out of food, it tastes horrible. And so they had to put in all this sugar to make things palatable and taste better. And then they realized if you put just the right amount, you can actually make people addicted, and then they can crave it, and then they'll want to eat it more, and that will skyrocket sales. And so I just want women to understand it's not your fault. It's not your fault if the donuts and the candy and the pop are talking to you. Your body has been duped.
Hey there, are you over 40 and finding that a good night's sleep feels like a distant dream? Have no fear, I have cracked the code. I am offering a free ebook, A Woman's Guide to Kick-Ass Sleep, with insights tailored just for you. So, if you're ready to dive into the secrets of sound sleep after 40 and wake up refreshed, zip over to sleep.hormoneshelp.com and snag that ebook. Your dreamy sleep awaits.
Dr. Tabatha, I'm so glad to have you back on our show. This is a treat, and I think since you and I talked last on the show, you were a 2-time best-selling author. So I want to dig in and talk about, because you took a little deeper dive into who you are and the things that are most important to you on these last 2 books. So I'd love for you to talk about it. Talk about your books.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just really excited to finally share what's been brewing inside of me for so long. I had a download about 1.5 years ago from God, and essentially he said, you need to teach women how to nourish their soul. You know, you're teaching them how to heal their bodies with fasting and hormone balancing and gut healing. But what I found was women would slide back into their old patterns and old habits and lose the progress that we had made. And so I would be frustrated, they would be frustrated. And God said, like, you're missing that piece. You have to reconnect the body, mind, and soul for true whole healing. And I had no idea what that was going to look like, right? I'm like, okay, I know that to be true. As an osteopathic physician, that's like what you learn med school 101. Dr. Andrew Taylor still said you have to connect the mind and the body with the musculoskeletal system, the nervous system. All of that has to be in alignment for true healing. But I didn't really understand that. And so I did a lot of deep work on myself. And once I figured out how to heal myself and really reconnect what my soul was like desiring for me and what my mind was actually doing and controlling me to do, it all came together and made so much sense. And you know this, like, your thoughts are everything. They control how our body functions, and they make chemicals that actually tell our body to either heal and be healthy or to be inflamed and create disease. So that's really powerful, I think, once women understand that piece.
Yeah, because I think we are often, particularly at war with ourselves. We stay in this gap, you know, instead of thinking about where we've come from and the positive things in our life. It's always like, I have the goalpost out here and I'm not at the goalpost. So therefore I'm in this gap of not being at the goalpost. But then what do? As soon as we get to the goalpost, if we get to it, what do? We just scoot it further out. It's like a never-ending football field, and you can never get to the end zone.
Oh my gosh, I can totally feel that. Like, we as women, we are just ingrained to be perfectionists. Even if we don't want to believe it, I think the majority of us really are always striving for that unattainable goal. And as we nudge closer, we push it further away. So we're never satisfied. We're never content. And that has been a really strong lesson that I've had to learn over the past year, is to really feel joy and contentment in the mess, in the journey, in the getting to the goal. Because when I wasn't doing that, when I was always living for the future, which is unfortunately how I became a doctor. Like I had to have delayed gratification. Otherwise I couldn't study and like get through years of residency and all these things. I had to focus on that goal way out in the future. But I missed so much of the present. I missed out on just enjoying life and really loving what was happening in the moment. And once I started living that way, just appreciating, feeling joy for the trials, for the tribulations, my life shifted. I finally felt like I had some control and that the goal wasn't as important because it was going to be there, it was going to move, but I was enjoying life along the way. And that's what I want for women, because we're always trying to look better, feel better, have a better job, have a better relationship, but we're missing the beauty in the moment. There's so much amazing opportunity. And I'll tell you, my second husband told this to me on my honeymoon. I wish I would have listened to him 20 years ago, because I was complaining about how I looked in a bathing suit. I was 27 at this point, you guys. Like, how sad is that? I mean, looking back, I would beg to look like that. And that's exactly what he had said to me in that moment. He said, someday you're going to wish you looked this amazing in this bathing suit. And you don't even realize it right now because you are comparing yourself and trying to attain something that's ridiculous. And now I look back on that moment and what he said to me, and I wish I would have just enjoyed being in the bathing suit and been happy and content with myself. So now that I'm nudging on 50, that is what I'm doing. And it's like we just don't give the F's anymore, right? We get rid of the F's. We don't care.
I get it. I think I stopped wearing a bikini bathing suit of any type in my mid-20s. And it wasn't until I was 50 that I started buying them again, and I was like, I'm happy with my body. I'm healthy. And if you don't like it, don't look. That's not my problem.
I literally didn't wear a bathing suit from 18 to 27 until I got married to my second husband, because my first husband made such bad comments about my cellulite when I weighed 110 pounds. Like, I'm still confused about all of that, but I let that direct my behaviors because I put that recording into my brain that I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't skinny enough, I had too much cellulite, and I let those recordings play and define me as a person, and they dictated my activities and my behaviors. And I didn't put the bathing suit on, and I didn't go to the beach, and I watched what I ate, and I did every diet because of that. And that's what I want women to understand. I want you to just take a few moments or, a few hours and really unpack, what is your brain saying to you all the time? What is on repeat? What's on play in your subconscious that you're not even paying attention to, but it's driving how you live your life? Like, we need to be more cognizant of why we're making the choices that we make so that we can start making different choices, right? So that can be really powerful, and that's how you can change.
Yeah, so you don't self-sabotage, because for the most part, we often get so far and then we self-sabotage and we end up back where we were, and it becomes this sort of vicious cycle.
All of the time, women are trying every diet, they're feeling frustrated, or they get results for a short time, and then they go back to their old ways. I had a fasting program that I did online for years, and I would see this. Women would have great results. They would fast, they would lose weight, they would feel great. And then when the program was done, they went back to their old ways and they were frustrated. Like, well, what happened? Why did I gain the weight back? I said, because you're doing your old behaviors, your old, choices. You're eating the wrong foods again. And so if you're listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, I've been there, I've done that. I want you to understand that there is a different way to live. You don't have to be on this roller coaster of yo-yo dieting or trying to figure things out. Like, there is a healthy way to just live and be and maintain a healthy weight and to feel good. I've done it for a decade now. I think I've figured it out, and I help I've helped thousands of women do it. So it's totally doable, but we're not looking at it with the right mindset. So really, if you want to change your body, you have to change your mind first and foremost.
Yeah. And I think when we tend to fall back into behaviors that are not healthy eating behaviors, it's because we've elevated food to take a spot for something about us, our relationship, our experience, our work, or whatever, that we're unwilling to confront. And so we put food as this sort of proxy to, I don't feel good, so I'm going to eat this, or it's going to make in a position where it's supposed to be providing me something, and it's just food. So if it's your drug of choice, there's probably things in the subconscious and also in your world that need to be addressed.
So I completely felt that after I re-injured my back. So I'm not sure if I shared this story last time, but, the way I found the world of conventional medicine was going on this health journey because I was in chronic back pain for years, had uncontrolled Hashimoto's, Raynaud's syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, major depression, all the things. I had back surgery. I took 6 weeks off. Everybody was like, great, you're going to be a new woman. You're going to go back to your old life. And the third night on call, I re-injured and couldn't move. So I had to lay in bed for an entire week before I could get back to the surgeon. And by about the fourth day, I realized I hadn't really eaten anything. And I was started to think, like, why am I not even hungry? Like, I normally eat when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when I'm bored, all the things to keep me awake, to keep me going. I was addicted to sugar and everything else. And what I realized was, like you were saying, I had a void and an issue that food just couldn't fill anymore. And my body was using its innate intelligence to try and heal me. So fasting is actually one of the most powerful ways that we can heal our bodies. And our body knows that, but our brain doesn't know that. We're trained to think that we should eat all the time, and eating is what heals us, eating is what nourishes us. But honestly, I don't think a lot of women realize it actually requires energy to eat and digest and break down food. You are using energy and resources when you're doing that process. And so if you want true healing, you have to stop the digestive system from functioning. You have to give the pancreas a break from producing that insulin all of the time. And that is where true healing comes in. So here I am laying in bed, not being able to move. My husband's carrying me to the toilet just to get to the toilet. And I remembered my surgical residency, like my first year of training. We would write orders, NPO, and tell the nurse, do not feed this patient. They just had surgery. You're not allowed to give them anything until we say so. And it's because avoiding food helps the body heal. And we've gotten so far away from that I even forgot that as a surgeon. And so that was a really eye-opening week for me. And this part of the story. Like, I went back to the surgeon and he was like, oh, it's no big deal. Back surgery's like Lay's potato chips. You can't have just one. We'll just put some rods and screws in your back, and you might herniate above or below and need more surgeries, but don't worry about that right now. And I was like, time out. Absolutely not. I am not signing up for this. I'm 40 years old. This is insane. And I did the unthinkable and took 4 months off of work and found the world of functional medicine. And sometimes you have to be drastic like that to take back control of your health. So I would just invite you, feeling so far gone, like there's no hope left. There's always hope. There's always another choice. It's just, are you going to live in fear or are you going to live in faith? Like, what's going to drive you?
Yeah, even the whole idea of having, 3 meals a day, that came out of Industrial Revolution. And then we got into the late 80s, early 90s, and it was all of a sudden you need snacks. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you are, but we're roughly the same age. Like, when we were kids, you played at a soccer game, no one brought snacks in the middle. You made it to the end of the game, and maybe you went to lunch or dinner. Like, there was no snacking. You're not going to die. But people think you're going to die if you don't eat every few hours. But it gives the body that rest and digest and relax sort of scenario. And it mimics what we've done for millions of years, right? Millions of years we had food, and then we didn't have food. And guess what? We survived. We are very well equipped to go without food for a little while.
Absolutely. I couldn't believe when my kids started doing sports and going to school, like they needed snacks all the time. I was like, where is this concept coming from? This is ludicrous. Like literally in kindergarten, you're there for 5 hours. You need 2 snacks and lunch. And it turns out that you're right. It's driven by the food industry. And here's a startling statistic. So in the 1800s, you would eat about 2 pounds a year. I would eat 2 pounds of sugar a year. You would eat 2 pounds of sugar a year. Now, in this day and age, we each eat 60 pounds of sugar a year as a single person. Like, it's crazy. And we don't even realize because it snuck in so slowly into all of our foods over the past few decades that it's just insidious and we don't even realize it. The day that I started looking at the labels and I saw that there was sugar added in my tuna packet, I was mad. I was like, what the heck is happening to this world? But we don't realize it. We don't know. It's in the salad dressings. It's in the sugar. It's in the granola bars. It's in drinks that shouldn't have added sugar. I bought some coconut water. It had added sugar. I was like, why? That is sugar. Like, come on, people. So we just have to get aware as consumers that we're being completely duped. And it really did come out of the low-fat, no-fat era of the 90s, because when you take fat out of food, it tastes horrible. And so they had to put in all this sugar to make things palatable and taste better. And then they realized if you put just the right amount, you can actually make people addicted, and then they can crave it, and then they'll want to eat it more. And that will skyrocket sales. And so I just want women to understand it's not your fault. It's not your fault if the donuts and the candy and the pop are talking to you. Your body has been duped. The cool thing is you can actually take back control. Like, I had to break up with sugar hardcore. You know, I could hear the donuts and the cake from the break room. I went to the nurse's station to deliver a baby, and there's the M&Ms, there's the licorice, there's all the stuff all the time. It was the normal. But I promise you, it's not normal. It's toxic to the body, and we have to remind the body how to get out of sugar burning mode. And because of all of this, women really struggle with fasting. They're like, no, I'm hangry. I can't do it. I feel miserable. I'm jittery, all the things. So we should really talk about, like, why is that? What's happening?
Yeah. So let's dive in, because I'm sure a lot of my listeners may have some understanding of fasting. But what are the top 3 things that are happening in the body and the cells at fasting that really allows for that restoration?
Yeah. So this is what I want women to understand. Your body is always trying to make ATP, or energy, for your cells to do their functions, for your muscles to contract and move your body, for your lungs to intake air, for your body to fight off viruses that are coming in, all the things. And so we do need energy from our foods, and we can get it either in the form of sugar or in the form of fat. And sugar is from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are just a bunch of sugars all connected together. And so vegetables are carbohydrates, fruits are carbohydrates, grains. But when we digest them, we break them down all into their simple sugars, and that increases our blood sugar level. So then our pancreas has to make insulin. Insulin's a fat storage hormone to go out, take care of that sugar in the bloodstream, and do something with it. If you're physically active or you're studying really hard or something like that, you're going to use that for energy. But if you're like most women, like myself, I'm sitting at a desk all day. I'm talking to people. I'm not really moving my body or doing anything intense. So when I eat those carbohydrates, the insulin stores it as fat. And the first place it will start storing it is your liver, hoping that you'll use it again soon. And then it starts storing it in the fat cells and around the organs. And so it turns out sugar makes us fat. Fat doesn't make us fat. And That's where we really went awry in the 90s and 2000s. And we're now finally coming around to realize that we have, caused a lot of dysfunction. Diabetes has skyrocketed, obesity has skyrocketed, all the things. And we've gotten away from fat burning or eating fat. So it turns out that fat gives us more energy per calorie than a carbohydrate does, and it satiates us. So we have more energy longer. So if you eat fat and protein with a meal, you're not hungry a half an hour later. If you just eat carbohydrates, you're hungry a half hour later once that sugar drops out of your bloodstream. I remember living on carbohydrates. You eat it for breakfast, it sets you up for a whole day of cravings and needing to eat every couple hours because you can't sustain that. Your insulin's always like, oh my gosh, again, let's get rid of that. Let's put it in the liver. And now 24% of US adults have fatty liver disease. If you have had elevated liver enzymes and your doctor is like, oh, you just have little fatty liver, we'll recheck it in a year. Please don't ignore that. That is a huge warning sign. It's almost becoming the number one reason for liver transplantation in this country. It's a huge deal, you guys. It's not something to just ring check in a year. You have to start burning that fat and those sugars and get that out of your liver. It is toxic. Your liver needs to be able to metabolize your hormones and the drugs you take and the toxins you bring in. And it can't do that if it's full of all of this fat from your carbohydrates. So I love talking about metabolic flexibility, which means being able to eat carbs and burn sugar, being able to eat fat and burn fat for fuel, being able to go back and forth, because most of us are stuck in sugar burning mode and we can't burn any fat for fuel. So if you can regain that metabolic flexibility, you become unstoppable. And like you said, we were created to feast and famine. We didn't have grocery stores on every corner thousands, millions of years ago. Our bodies know how to go without food, have a feast, and go without again. That's the key for women, is to really teach your body how to do that, function like it was created to function, and then you can thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, there's some fascinating things if you look at the research on fasting. The first part is your body actually sort of creating this hormonal message in the body where all of a sudden it's becoming more fit, right? Insulin control is fitter. The ability for your body to burn fat and mobilize it with the hormones epinephrine and adiponectin are better. Even more exciting is if you look at the data on amino acids, right? So protein's broken down, amino acids. Our body manufactures 300 grams to 400 grams of protein a day. Even if you're eating what we know you should probably be eating, which is probably at least 100 grams a day or more of protein, which most women are not. You know that, I know that. But that means your body is taking parts of cells and other things and remanufacturing them into amino acids to reuse them, right? And when you go into fasting, that reuse and kind of cleaning up of old kind of half-functional parts amplifies. And that's why you see an improvement in the immune system and all that other stuff. I think people getting over that fear of fasting, that it's doing something bad to the body, they don't really realize that highly tuned, really appropriately done fasting actually will help aid you in reverse.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It creates autophagy, this process of cleaning house and recycling of nutrients and proteins into their amino acid forms. It's so important. You get this uptick from your immune system of let's kill off the viruses that we see. Let's kill off the bacteria. And it just gets to work. It is so powerful and incredible. And that is why we fast people when they have surgery. We fast people when they have fevers and they're super sick, because we need that autophagy to kick in. We need those cells to be produced and go to work and do their jobs, because it's greater than any medicines that we can give you. And this just reminds me of when I first started my surgical residency, they really ingrained us with this idea that we were the healers. We were going to fix these patients, and it's powerful, right? Like I'm using my hands to remove organs and do these things. Like, wow, that's really incredible. And that's why some surgeons get God complexes. But at the end of the day, I can cut through your skin and your fascia and your uterus and sew them all back together with sutures. But I don't do the healing. Your body actually grows those cells back together and closes that up. If we cut those sutures, they couldn't heal very well, but they would try. They would heal however they are because your body does the healing. So we have to stop looking to the white coats for the answers and for the healing because it's actually all within you. You just have to remove what's impeding your progress or irritating the body and then support it and give it what it needs. And I just want to also make this note, like when we're eating the standard American diet that's high in carbohydrates, we tend to overeat, and it's because it's so nutrient deplete. You can eat an entire bag of Doritos because you're not giving your body what it needs. And it's like, you better eat more. I'm still waiting for the nutrients to come in. But you can't eat that much broccoli. Your body will be like, no, we're full. We're good. You gave us what we need, right? Or that chicken. So I just want you to just give yourself some grace and take off the shame, take off the blame. It's not your fault. You have been duped into eating the standard American diet and following bad recommendations from the cardiologist to the primary care doctors to the gynecologist. They have it wrong, I promise you. And they are quietly putting their tail between their legs and trying to say, yeah, you're right. We were wrong. Like, let's make it right. But they don't want to say it too loudly because they're embarrassed. So I always tell women, like, don't even bother asking them. You're asking the wrong people for advice. The gynecologist doesn't actually know about hormones, doesn't know about diet, doesn't know about stress management. We're surgeons. I had to go on and study functional medicine, anti-aging medicine, menopause medicine to understand and learn all of this stuff. I didn't learn this as a surgeon. Truth.
Yeah. I think it's shocking to women to know that, to know that. So I want to get into the face side of this a little bit, because the other thing is every single religion, spiritual practice, traditional, whether it was pagan, not pagan, every single one has some sort of fasting regimen, right? Because that was your opportunity to get closer to your God, deity, deities, whatever it was. So you made this pivot. Because I remember us having this conversation. It was very true to who you are, but it was a pivot also of being open about that, right? Because in medicine, we're told, don't talk about yourself. Don't relate to people. Don't relate to people, and don't let people into who you are. Right. And that's like ingrained very early on in the healthcare system. Like it's, that is inappropriate in any way, shape, or form. So talk about diving into that, because I think that's a huge thing, right?
Oh my gosh, it's been such a powerful game changer for my practice, for my patients, for me, just finally living into my true, authentic calling. So, I was a wild child. I was going to be a rock star when I grew up. I was a high school dropout, but I got pregnant and had a traumatic delivery. And through that delivery, I realized my calling, that I needed to figure my life out and help women not go through the kind of trauma that I went through. And so I went to become a doctor. I did all the things I thought I was supposed to do, but I was, I found myself broken in a broken system. I wasn't actually making change and giving women options the way I was supposed to be. I was just another doctor giving bad advice. And so through figuring all of that out, I kept leaning back to my faith. When I was laying in that bed for a week, God was like, look at the Bible, look at my word. What does my word say about fasting? And what I came to realize, you hit on this a little bit, is when you start fasting, you reconnect with your creator, because you stop being so into your fleshly desires and distracted by your cravings and everything going on in your physical body, you stop feeling all the feels and you really start thinking and feeling with your soul, like, what does my soul need? And when you start having those conversations with God, like, why am I here? Why am I going through this? Why am I learning this lesson again for the 10th time? Like, what am I missing? Then you really can start to shift. And so I teach women this method called Faith It. It's in the book. And I talk about, like, if you just don't do anything else, like, get the book, go to chapter 8 and read about Faith It, because it's so powerful. When you actually fast, you get rid of those fleshly desires, which we shouldn't give in to all, right? That leads to cheating and lying and stealing and all the bad stuff. But it also leads to emotional eating, overeating, abusing our body, addictions, all the things. And you can overcome all of that with God's strength. So if you fast, you find focus mentally. I get so much brain clarity. I've written 3 books now. Well, the third one was co-written. But the first 2 I wrote in a fasted state because I had so much brain clarity. Like, I was on fire. It was incredible. And after menopause, it's even better. Like, fasting is your superpower, ladies. And then A is ask for guidance. God wants to be your father and help. You just need to ask for what it is that you need. And some people have a different version, but they understand, like, ask. The universe energetically wants to be in alignment with your energy. And when you can ask and figure that piece out and get into alignment, like, everything starts to flow. And what I find really powerful is ink it. So I is ink for clarity. When you start to journal and write down all the gobbledygook going around in your brain, all those old recordings and things that you aren't even aware of, when you start writing them down, the problems, the solutions will flow. You will see things in a new light because your brain can't actually create a new pathway if you're sitting listening to that old pathway all the time. And you have to give it a way to get out. So journaling is really a powerful way to do that. And I go through this exercise called future gazing with God, where you start to see, like, how do I see myself? How does my creator see myself? And why is there such a gap? Like you mentioned at the beginning, like, let's fix that gap and figure out how to get over here and stop hating our body and stop being miserable. And then T is thank. Thank God. If you get into an attitude of gratitude, man, Oprah's been talking about this for decades. It really is so powerful. It shifts your entire mindset. It shifts how you see your day. It shifts the energy that you draw into your life. The people change, the circumstances change, everything changes when you get into an attitude of gratitude. And then H is to hear. This is where a lot of women fall short. I did this for a long time. Like, I would pray and beg and treat God like a genie in a bottle. Oh, dear God, please give me this. Please make this happen. Please get rid of this person. Please get rid of this circumstance. I wasn't actually hearing to take the time. What do you want from me? What should I be doing? And to be in that meditative state and realizing that it's not all about my wants, because I don't really understand all the pieces that are moving and shifting in my life and all that is at play. So let me be open to actually what the universe wants for me and what my role is in it. So that can be really powerful, to actually just shut your mouth for a while. Stop listening to input from podcasts and things. Obviously not right now. You want to listen to this one, but take 10 minutes to journal and just hear from your creator what he wants from you, and then initiate action, get into action. You know, God wants you moving. Action creates clarity. When you sit and stew about something, you'll never move out of that place. It will only get worse. But if you just take messy action, imperfect action, you're actually going to move toward some positive change. And then T is trust. Trust his timing for your life. This is probably the hardest thing that I've had to learn, because I want everything yesterday. I want everything now. right? Like I dream something up just like you, Betty, like let's make it happen. We are doers. We are like action taking women. But when the result doesn't happen as soon as we want, that is when faith comes in. That's when you have to trust that maybe God is moving a mountain so you don't have to deal with it. Maybe there's a huge pitfall that he's trying to avoid for you. Or maybe you have to grow into this other version of yourself to be able to handle the situation you're asking for. So don't be mad when things don't happen tomorrow. Don't be mad that you didn't lose the weight yesterday. Like, trust the timing. Just stay in action. Stay in faith. It's so powerful. Once I started living this way, life just got so much better. I can't even explain to you how much better. And listening to my patients, all the women who've done this program, they're like, I can never go back to living how I lived before. My eyes are open. This is the way, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, I don't know anybody who does a good job of staying in the present and staying in the process unless they're really doing some deep work on a regular basis to stay there. Because I think it's part of the human condition, right? It's what makes us different from other animals. We have the ability to make executive decisions and extrapolate and problem solve, but all of that intellect leads us down a road that makes us unhappy much of the time, you know, in a happy world, right? Like the thing that I always find amazing is if you go to places where they are not highly westernized, right? Let's say that they're impoverished, you know, in our eyes, our westernized eyes, we would be like, who could possibly live like that? But I can tell you as a population, doesn't matter if you're Papua New Guinea or, you know, sub-Saharan Africa, as a population, they are happier than we are because the more we have, the more we want, and the more we feel like we're getting screwed because we're not getting it.
Absolutely. And I will say a lot of this comes to a head for women in their 40s and 50s. It's our midlife crisis because we worked hard. We got the house, we got the cars, we got the kids, we got the husband, and we're standing there going, why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? Why didn't that do it? And it's because that's not actually why we are here on this earth having this earthly experience. We are here for something deeper. And if you're not being directed by your Creator, it comes to a head because He wants you to wake up and live into your purpose. And I promise you, it's never too late to do that. That's the cool thing. It's like Vera Wang didn't become a dress designer till she was in her 40s. Like, you don't have to feel like you're too old. That is a lie. It's not true. Like, whenever you get this awakening, that is when you're supposed to get your awakening. That's what I truly believe. And so if you're 55 and you're listening to this and you're like, man, I just been going through the motions, trying to survive, trying to make everything happen, like muscling everything. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. If you just trust that God's got you and that, hey, show me the plan, show me the next step. He's never going to show you the goal. Like, you don't ever get to see the goal. You can dream up some goals and you can plan some goals. I've done that plenty of times. That's how I became a doctor and all these things. But it was not at all how I planned. Absolutely not. There was some crazy, sidewinding paths and backflips and, all kinds of crazy stuff. And that is part of what you need to embrace and just be thankful for, honestly. And that is going to serve you so much better than trying to satisfy these solely desires with these physical things, because they're not going to work. And I just want to make one comment, because some women are like, well, it's not godly to care about your body. It's really superficial. You shouldn't care about what you look, things like that. And I promise you, He gave us a body for a reason. Like, otherwise we'd just be souls having this experience. Like, we're supposed to steward the body that we were given. We're supposed to take care of it because we can do so many incredible things with it. And if our body's not functioning well, then we can't do the things we were actually created to do. If my hips don't work and I can't walk and get places, I can't do what I'm supposed to do. So we really are called in the Bible. I've studied this many times because I struggled with this superficialness of it. And literally the Bible says you have to honor your body. That is how you honor God. And so just get rid of that bad feeling about, well, that's superficial. I shouldn't care about what I look. I shouldn't exercise and work out. No, you should. You actually should. That's what you're called to do, is to take care of the one body you're given. And I promise you, once you hit menopause, it goes downhill a lot quicker. Like you said, the aging process, especially if you're not on hormone replacement therapy, the disease processes start to set in. But fasting is something that really you can utilize to slow those processes down and even reverse diabetes, reverse autoimmune conditions, because you're healing your gut, you're healing your entire body. So it's so powerful. And I truly believe every single woman should live a fasting lifestyle without a doubt.
Yeah. And I think, once they've gone through a program like Fast to Faith or whatever resonates with them, where they learn appropriate fasting techniques. Because I think that's the other thing, is a lot of people are like, yeah, I fasted because they got up and they had 32 ounces of coffee in the morning, and then they skipped lunch, and then they white knuckled it and then made food. And while they were having food, they were eating chips and other stuff. And then they ate dinner. And then they continued to eat. They're like, yeah, I fasted during the day. And I'm like, that's not fasting. That's haphazard eating.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. One of the most important parts about fasting is the eating. You have to nourish your body when you are eating. So in the book, I talk about frankenfoods versus faith foods. Chapter 7 goes over all the frankenfoods, all the stuff in boxes and bags that we make in a factory. That is not how you should be eating. You need to be eating the food that was created for us, animals and plants. You need to eat real, whole, clean foods. And those animals that you're eating need to have eaten real, clean food as well. They should be eating the grass and the bugs and all the things, not pesticide-laden cornmeal and all of that stuff. So it really does matter what you're eating, more than even the fasting. Both of it matters. All of it matters. So I hit on all of these pieces in the book because, like you said, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much confusion, and there's so much dirty fasting or fasting that's focused on men, because they don't have the same rhythmic system that we do. We really do need to carb cycle, and we really do need to do this feast-famine cycle that I talk about, because that prevents our thyroid from down-regulating, thinking, in survival mode, starving our body to death. If your body thinks you're starving it, it will hold on to your fat so much harder, and you will never lose that weight. So you cannot just calorie deprive. You can't just do a 16-8 and eat 1,500 calories every day. Your body will down-regulate. It's not rebelling. It's not hating you. It has innate intelligence that's protecting you. So once you start to learn why your body's doing what it's doing, you can start to embrace it and work with it, as opposed to working against it like I did for so many years. So that's pretty much the premise of the book, is why is my body behaving this way? And what is it trying to tell me? And how can we work together to actually enjoy the second half of our life?
Yeah, because I think, like you were saying before, we get to this time period and many either are empty nesting or in the proximity of empty nesting. I don't have children, but, all of a sudden you look up and you're like, what's my life about now? Where maybe I don't have to be 100% outward focused to everybody else. And the only way you really get to live into that is if you're the absolute healthiest you can be. I mean, you can slog your way through it, but to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve or experience what you want to experience, I think you have to have a healthy body. You just do, And I don't think we should accept that this is, I was having this conversation with a friend last night, talking about kind of natural aging and whether you intervene or not. And I was like, well, we just outlived our natural length of time, right? We have a lifespan that's way outliving our health span, because we were designed to die after menopause, right? We now have sanitation of these other things that would have killed us off early. So the reality is we're about 40 years without hormones. right? And without all these other things. So you need to take care of this vehicle so that next 30 to 40 years rocks.
It's something as simple as breaking your wrist could take you out and should change the trajectory of your life because you have to stop working out. You can't take care of yourself. You might eat differently. Like, it really is important for you to harness your health now so that when you are aging, you can stay powerful. You can thrive. I promise I see it all the time. But you're right. Like, we weren't created to live this long. We have done this as a society. And so now we have to figure it out. And that's how I feel about hormone replacement. Like, some people say, well, how can you say that? Like, God doesn't promote bioidentical hormones. I was like, well, God created me and he made me really smart and he taught me how to use bioidentical hormones. So maybe he does. Like, I don't think that we completely look at things properly. I think we're trying to always find an excuse or a reason to limit women and keep them in a box and, prevent them from feeling amazing. And I'm sorry, but I am for women, like, taking back control and doing whatever it takes to enjoy your life so that you can do what you were called to do, because that's why we're here. So if that's being on hormones, so be it. Don't ever take my hormones away.
Everybody that listens to this show knows that I'm a fierce advocate for women's health and particularly hormones. I'm like, I'm sorry. That's, maybe there might be candidates for hormones, but it's rare and few and far between. Yeah. And so for sure, you and I are on the same page on that. Well, Dr. Tabatha, I want you to tell my listeners, number one, where they can find your book. And then you have a free gift for my listeners also.
Yeah, I hope somebody got some golden nugget out of this. One little thing that we're like, oh my gosh, like ding, aha, yes. Because you can build off of that. Tiny little changes can snowball into really amazing things. So I would love for you to get the intermittent fasting guide, The Faithful Way. It's so basic, like some basic things that you can just shift. It's not scary. It's not big and overwhelming, but it really can start to shift how you're feeling and functioning through your day, how you're sleeping, how much energy you have, all that good stuff. And then if you're feeling up to it, we have an app. Fast to Faith is an app. There is a community with the program in there, and you can do the 40-day fasting program. It's not fasting for 40 days. It's a progressive way of teaching you how to get back your metabolic flexibility. It's breaking up with snacks and sugar. It's eating the right meals, then shrinking your window, and then doing the feast-famine cycle. So it really sets you up for success. There's no hangriness, jitters, irritability. We don't subscribe to any of that stuff. So if that interests you, you can do a 7-day free trial on the Fast to Faith app. We would love to see you in there. I love pouring into women. It fills my heart. That's why I do what I do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll have both of those in the show notes so everybody can get to it. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Tabatha, for being with me and joining me on Menopause Mastery.
Yeah, I just love you so much. You're incredible. And what you're doing for women is so needed. And I'm just so grateful for you because you are blazing the trail. Like, you are showing women that they don't have to put up with this, that there's a better way to live. And I'm just so grateful for you and for your friendship.
Yeah. And thank you. Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to Menopause Mastery. We'll be back with you next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Menopause Mastery podcast. You are why I'm here, and I am so very grateful. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any wisdom on creating the most exceptional life on our terms. If this episode has helped you in any way, please share it with a friend to spread the love, and together we rise. You can follow me on social media at Betty Murray, PhD, and you can reach me online at bettymurray.com.